Hello beautiful people and welcome back to Wine Chat. My name is Emma and I'm a certified sommelier with a mission to spread wine knowledge and to help you drink better. Now we all love our glasses of wine, our bottles of wine. That's why we're all here today. However, we all know there's nothing worse than when you open your bottle, you pour yourself a glass, you take your first sniff or your first sip, and you just feel your heart sink because there is something wrong with your wine. So today is part one of our wine fault series, and today we are going to cover corked wine, oxidation, and cooked wine. So without further ado, let's chat about it. If there's something wrong with your wine, the most common thing that I hear people saying is that, oh, the wine is corked, when often they are trying to find the words to describe another fault. But definitely cork taint is one of the most common wine faults out there. And no, I'm not talking about little bits of cork floating around in your glass of wine. TCA, or cork taint, is a chemical contaminant that affects all wood, not just corks. Although it is naturally occurring in cork bark, any wood or cardboard that gets slightly damp or humid and comes in contact with a chlorine-based cleaning solution can also pick up TCA. This means that it can be found in the cork, which is where you most commonly will find it, but you can also find it in the winery, in oak barrels, in the production line, in the wood of the winery building, and cardboard boxes. Basically, if it goes on undiscovered, it can spread and not just ruin a single bottle of wine, but also an entire batch or production. Although it is very rare, there are some stories out there of some wineries in France who had to basically pull down their entire cellar and rebuild just to fully eradicate the problem. The number of wines under cork that are affected by TCA is estimated to be around 3 to 8%, but nobody actually knows completely for sure. The effect of TCA or cork taint can range from being almost completely unnoticeable to absolutely destroying your wine. If the wine just has lower levels of TCA, it will taste slightly muted, the fruit in the wine will taste slightly dusty, and the finish will be cut short. Sometimes the effect is so small that it's actually not until you open another bottle of the same wine and you see how alive and vibrant and bright that bottle is that you realize, oh wow, this bottle was corked. At higher levels, the wine will smell and taste like wet or moldy cardboard, a damp cellar, or wet dog. And funnily enough, it actually reminds me of at high school, the jumpers that we had to wear, and whenever it rained, and in New Zealand it rains a lot and your jumpers would get soaking wet, we'd always complain that they smelled like wet dog. And for me, cork taint smells exactly how my jumper smelled. So trust me, if your wine is corked, it is not going to taste good. Now, depending on your genetics and your tasting ability, you may be able to taste cork taint at a much lower level than other people. And if you do have a sip of a corked wine, don't worry, it's not going to harm you. The only bad thing is that there is nothing that you can do about it. What you have to do is just put the cork back in the bottle and take the bottle back to wherever you bought it from your supplier or your wine shop, and hopefully they will give you a replacement bottle or a refund. Now, while it is true that introducing oxygen to the wine during the winemaking process is important for some wines, it helps to add a little bit of character and helps the wine to survive a longer aging process. You have wines like sherry where adding oxygen is an integral part of the winemaking process. However, for a lot of wines, too much oxygen, especially too fast, is going to make the wine oxidized. Now, this can happen through bad winemaking, a faulty bottle closure, or for some unknown reason you just haven't finished your bottle of wine. It's going to become oxidized, and this is not something that you want. Just think of what happens if you leave a slice of apple out on your kitchen bench. It starts to shrink, it loses its fruit flavor, and it starts to turn a nasty brown kind of color. This is exactly the same thing that happens with your wine when it becomes oxidized. Now, depending on how much contact the wine has had with the oxygen, it will start to change color, taking on a kind of brown, tawny appearance. The freshness of the fruit will die off, and it will start to develop this almost nutty aroma, sometimes a little bit of a caramelized apple mixed with a rotting apple. It's really not something that you want to be drinking. To avoid oxidation, if you have a bottle with a cork, make sure that it is stored on its side so that the cork doesn't dry out. Now, if the cork dries out, what it's going to do is it will shrink, and that will allow oxygen to seep into the bottle. Once your bottle is open, make sure that you drink it or share it around before it goes bad. If I was you, I would keep it in your fridge, and in my experience, wine lasts between kind of 3 to 5 days once it's open. A little bit longer if you use a system like a Vakavin, in which you pump the oxygen out of the bottle. To make a wine last even longer, I would recommend getting a preservation system like Caravan. This is great. It pumps argon gas into the wine, so it creates a little barrier between the wine and any oxygen. You don't have to remove the cork, and the wine can stay fresh for, some people say, up to a few months, which is absolutely incredible. If you want to know more about this nifty little device, check out my Caravan review video that I did a couple of months ago. It is linked in the description box below. First, we had corked wine. Now we have cooked wine. If a wine is left for prolonged periods of time in direct sunlight or in a hot environment, it may develop heat damage, also known as being cooked or Maderised. The name Maderised comes from Madeira wine, which is a fortified wine from the Portuguese island of Madeira, and it is oxidized through purposeful heating and aging. It is so important to make sure that your wine is stored correctly. Make sure it's somewhere that is cooler, slightly darker. If you have a wine fridge, that's awesome. If you have a basement or a cellar under your house where you can keep the wine, that is even better. If you're like me and you have neither of the above, just make sure that it's somewhere kind of out of direct sunlight, not too close to a heater, and somewhere that's just slightly cooler, slightly darker. The wine should be fine. Make sure that you don't keep your wine in the boot of your hot car for too long. Don't keep it in direct sunlight in a store window or on your window bench at home. Make sure in your kitchen that it's not right next to the stove or above the stove or super close to any heat sources. Cooked or Maderised wine can lose its fresh fruit aromas and taste a little bit stale. It may also get a little bit kind of jammy or stewed raisin aromas, and sometimes can develop a nuttiness. Another thing that may happen is that when a wine gets too hot, it actually expands in volume, and this will push the cork out of the bottle. So now the seal of the bottle is compromised and oxygen is going to be able to flow in, and now your wine's not only cooked or Maderised, but it's also oxidized as well. Well team, that is all from me today. I hope you have enjoyed this week's video on wine faults. Let me know in the comment below what faults you would like me to cover in our next wine fault series video. Now, before we go, I do have a little bit of an announcement to make. This Friday is the start of the first ever Wine Chat Wine Merch Black Friday sale. So the entire range is going to be 20% off with the promo code WINECHAT. All details are in the link below. You can snatch yourself this beautiful woman and her red wine t-shirt. This is actually one of the samples that I first got, and the actual t-shirt that's on the shop is a little bit thicker, though this is so soft and such a premium t-shirt. The one on the shop, trust me, it is even better. You can get my Beaujolais range that you've seen on here before, my drink better, be better motto as well. So all details in the description below. Leave me any questions that you have in the comments, or also check out my Wine Chat Instagram for more details. Thank you for watching, guys, and remember, drink better, be better.